Hi everybody, happy Friday. And it's our episode 48 of Behind the MasterMinds. Today we have the honor of having the talented Holly from Carden Illustrations with us today.
Yay!
Yeah, Harley is joining us from Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where everybody else is, but comment where you're located.
We want to know where you're from. Represent where you're from.
Yeah. And before we start, we're going to draw our 3 lucky winners from Escape Teams Mission 1 to 5 from a previous episode. And here we go. We're going to do our lucky winner number 1.
It's time?
Yeah.
All right, let's go. We got 3 winners today. Here we go. First winner is... Oh, your partner in crime. Yeah, wow. Congratulations. The ESCAPETHEROOmer. All right. And the next one is...
All right, let's see. Oh, that's a low one. What's that low one? Byron White.
Byron or Brian?
Byron.
All right, just want to make sure he gets his proper credit. Byron Wright. Congratulations. We have one more.
One last one. Okay, ready?
Yeah. All right.
Nick. 12.
Nick! Oh, you're the partner. Well, you're third. Yeah. Congratulations to the 3 winners. That's a really great game. It's a hybrid. It's app-based.
Yes. So fun.
Print and cut, do it yourself.
Yeah. Ooh, Anne-Marie is joining us from Indianapolis.
Indianapolis in the house.
That's great.
All right, but now, more importantly, we have to get to the lovely Holly. Holly is a freelance illustrator specializing in cutaways, maps, and the Wilma Builder style. We're going to ask you about that in a second. She has a line of jigsaw puzzles featuring her hand-drawn illustrations, and you can find the entire process on her blog, which I believe is hollycarden.com/blog. She was the artist behind all the artwork for Crimes in History, H.H. Holmes' Murder Castle board game by Blueprint Gaming Concepts. Yep, exactly. There's the skills right there. And then we had them on our episode 34 of our show. So if you have a moment, you should check that out as well. She also does a lot of commission work like wayfinding maps, book illustrations, magazine covers, and gig posters. Some of her favorite commission projects, I believe, were the Nashville Zoo map, the cutaway for a restaurant lounge called Fable, and a recent cover for the Nashville scene.
Yeah.
But we're going to get into some questions with Holly. Cece, let's set it off.
All right. Oh, by the way, Mark's in the house. Mark helps me a lot on the live stream.
Yeah, all the way from Nottinghamshire, England. All right.
All right. So, Holly, how did you get into jigsaw puzzle design? Were you a jigsaw puzzle fan first? Do you play a lot yourself? How did that happen?
Actually, no. Weirdly, I hadn't. The first puzzle I'd assembled since I was a little kid was the prototype for Murder Castle, which was the first puzzle I did. And it just came about because the drawing just lended itself to jigsaw puzzles. My mom is super into puzzles, and she was like, this would make a cool puzzle. So it was about 2016 when I did the first one. And I never expected we would have a puzzle boom, which the COVID pandemic has, it's kind of a silver lining. But it's the Wilma Builder style is just perfect for that because of all the different details. And also it's a little self-serving because if I make my picture a puzzle, I'm kind of forcing people to look at every single detail. So
they're from hours of play.
Well, by the way, not to cut you off, but for at 5 p.m. today, we are premiering our unboxing video, but also our gameplay of Cece and I working through 1,000 pieces of that jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah.
All right.
But,
how long did it take you? I'm very curious. You said you played that, right?
To put the puzzle together or to make the puzzle?
To put the puzzle together.
I'm not super good at doing puzzles. I don't know that my brain works that way, but I have the picture memorized. So that definitely gives me a leg up. But it still took me a couple days, and I have to assemble one of each of the designs every time I get a run in. So I've assembled it a lot of times. Now I just get people to do it for me in exchange for puzzles. So I don't have to do it anymore. So that's nice. But I can do it pretty fast considering I'm not terribly adept at assembling puzzles.
Because I was thinking like for us, I was like, I think that probably is like a medium to hard level because of the darker pieces around the edges. Those were the ones that kind of troubled.
Yeah, it's like how many pieces of
they all look the same.
Yeah, of cement, of just dark gray cement with little cracks. Can we like piece
Yeah, I love the illustration part though. That was a fun part of putting the middle parts together. So
well, I love finding the little details of like all the people that are inside of the castle and what's going on in each room.
Yeah.
Like I'm wondering, like when you were putting the pieces together, did you say to yourself like, oh yeah, I remember drawing this piece here, this little like razor blade or in the barbershop area or something that just like stood out for you? I'm wondering if you recall that stuff while you're doing it.
Oh yeah, for sure. And especially if there was a particularly frustrating part of the drawing that I had to work on and you know, there's definitely flashbacks when assembling that. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna test her knowledge on that later.
Yeah. So speaking of the Wilma Builder style, like what is that? And is do you only do that style? Or are there others as well that you do when you're designing?
No, I definitely do other styles, and it took me a while to kind of figure out what I prefer to draw, and it seems like the smaller I get, the more fun I have with it. But the Wimmelbilder is a German word. It means a picture that's densely packed with a bunch of different details, and to my knowledge, the way that it came about was back in the Dutch Renaissance, and there was a lot of like Hieronymus Bosch and Peter Bruegels that did these images filled with. Bruegels actually did one called Netherlandish Proverbs, where he illustrated a bunch of different proverbs within the picture. And then, you know, in the 90s, they were pretty big with Where's Waldo and Jan van Haasteen. I don't remember his name, but a lot of people in like the Netherlands and in that region of Europe, it's pretty popular. And so, I've always been drawn to it. I studied them a lot when I was a kid. I was just fascinated. Like I would stare at these for hours and just love finding all the little surprises in there. And so I do other styles, of course, but my favorite is to get real tiny with it and to just torture the same picture for months and months rather than doing a bunch of different ones.
Yeah, that must be a lot harder because there's so much more detail compacted into this one, canvas that you're working on. I mean, like other ones, you could draw one large figure or one large subject, but then this is like this little things, details, like it's amazing.
I like it because it's very similar to those like miniature puzzles that I see out there where they make like a miniature Harry Potter like alleyway or something. I know one of those are very popular nowadays, but the miniature stuff is like always intrigues me.
I also loved Where's Waldo too back in the day.
That's a big fun.
Yeah.
So let's go through like actually the making process of this jigsaw puzzle in terms of the steps, right? So we have a few clips that you had sent us. We wanted to also show the audience in terms of as we're talking what this is. Right. So our first one is coming up is our the sketching or the penciling. Yeah. And here's that.
So yeah.
And tell us a little bit about this. Like, is this the first step? You have an idea of a picture and then you're kind of drawing out?
No, this is kind of midway actually, because first it starts with a ton of really intensive research because everything's like based on blueprints and there's lots of references in the book. And then I do what I refer to as the super rough sketch. So that's that red you can see underneath, which just kind of plots out the general image and the layout and stuff like this. But before I get into the inking process, I like to get the sketch as tight as possible so that when I'm inking, I don't have to think about poses and facial expressions and stuff. I can just focus on the technical part of it. So the tight sketch is, I think, the most time-consuming process because there's so much referring to the book, referring to the blueprints to make sure everything's accurate and making a lot of decisions as far as like, if there's a piece of furniture I want particularly in there, I have to like look at references. So that part takes a long time and it's always really rewarding when I'm done. By the time I'm done with that part, I'm so ready to get into inking. And it's good to have all the different phases because they take so long. By the time I'm done with one, I'm just so eager to get into the next one for something different.
Yeah. How long does that take, that process usually?
Well, I try to be better about tracking my hours. For this project, I've actually been using a tracker to like clock in and out and see how long. I don't totally remember on the sketching part for this one because I was kind of like dipping in and out of it between projects and stuff. But I would imagine it probably took about 150 to 200 hours to do the type sketch. And I was working on the board game while doing that one. I had to kind of set it aside to do the board game. So I mean, technically it took months, because I had to kind of like wait on it. Right. But after the board game, I just I dove right into this, and I've just been Dracula to my eyeballs. So.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, our 9 hours spent on this puzzle is nothing.
Yeah, I mean, it's our level of appreciation for all the hours that you put into creating it.
Yeah.
So the next we're going to look at is the inking
part.
process. Yeah. So inking. All right.
And this one I do know because I was able to just work straight through it without breaks, and I clocked in and out. And the inking process took about 120 hours.
Wow.
Okay, so what are you using, and what are we seeing here?
I use Micron pens. They're super, super fine liners. I use the tiniest one, 003. And I have a variety of them, but I usually, to make a thicker line, I usually just like color it. So I go through a lot of pens, as you can probably imagine. I do also have an isograph, a rotring isograph, which is a metal nib. And so, because I'm a little heavy-handed and sometimes will like crush the felt nibs. And so this is good for doing like bolder outlines and stuff. And the ink flows a little better. But those are the pens that I've found to be the best.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah.
So are you tracing over like what's under? Like I can see, is that the previous step and then you're tracing over that?
Yeah, so what I do is I scan in the sketch, and I did it with the super rough sketch too. I'll scan it in and then print it off at a really low opacity so I can kind of see it underneath. But it's light enough that you can't really see it so much when the ink is over it. But I do leave some of that texture there because it gives it a nice, I don't know, I like the look of it to see some of that showing through, and it helps with the shading stuff.
Well, okay.
Yeah, it actually has like a 3D effect a little bit. Like it looks really, defined.
And it's impossible to get that look digitally. I mean, you probably could, but I really like the hand-drawn look to come through,
Yeah. Oh, shout out from Seth Cooper, Blueprint Gaming Podcast. Yeah.
Yay.
Thanks for joining us, Seth.
Yeah, also, we said about the episode 34, if you want to check out their games, definitely go check out our episode 34.
We also have an unboxing for that as well, for their game, and it showcases Holly's work as well for that one.
That was an awesome video, by the way. Nice job with that.
Oh, thank you. And then the next phase or next stage
flat
we
coloring.
have is what we call, or what she calls, flat coloring. And
here's that.
Ooh, now we're getting some.
Yeah. Loving this. How many layers? I love to hear. Like, how many layers is that?
Yeah, that's, oh my goodness. Look at the level of detail on that. How long is this process, this stage?
So the flat color, I think, because I've actually combined the flat and the lighting into one, but I think it probably took about as long as the inking because there's a lot of, because the lines are not so precise, I can't just fill all of them. There's a lot of like filling in with the brush and the details. But one of the more difficult aspects of it for me is actually making the decisions of what colors to use. This Dracula piece was actually a little easier because it's an actual castle with its own real color. So I just used that. And then because the characters are recurring throughout, I just had to make one decision for each of their outfits and just apply it everywhere. And then I could use that as a base for the color palette. But yeah, filling in all the little details is it's not difficult. It's a little tedious, but it's also like a little more mindless than the other stuff. So I can just like put on a show and kind of, it can be fun,
That's interesting. I wanted to know. Like, I always see you on with the TikTok of the sound music or like show in the back end. What is the favorite show or music that you usually use during these
that you listen to while you're?
Yeah, well, if I'm being good, I just listen to music because I can. I'm not a great multitasker, and even if I'm listening to a podcast, like that's taking some of my concentration. So if I have to like really zone in, I'll listen to music. But I do listen to a lot of podcasts. I've been listening to audiobooks lately. I just listened to The Stand, which is like 47 hours long. So that really got me through a lot of it. Shows, I've been watching West Wing. I watched The Undoing. I don't know. I've been watching. I will also watch a lot of like just garbage on YouTube, like YouTube shows. Like I'm super into like I love Trisha Paytas and the H3 podcast and all the drama where they're all like canceling each other. I know it's awful, but it's like
guilty pleasures.
Yeah,
guilty pleasures.
Whoever gets you through those hours, that's like hundreds of hours.
For sure.
Then we have a final stage. I believe. Well, I don't know if it's the
Lighting?
final, absolute final, but you have the lighting stage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is what I'm actually working through now. I started with the interior rooms. I'll be finishing the interior rooms this weekend, fingers crossed. And then I'll move to the exterior. But this is just, I take each of the flat layers and I apply a dark shadow layer to it. And then I add a light highlight layer to it. And then I turn the lights on. So I have to make sure that in each room, there's some sort of interesting light source. Lately, I've been liking to have several light sources, like a window and then a couple lamps or something like that, or a fireplace. And that really just kind of brings it all to life. And the lighting process is super fun because it's kind of like a puzzle in itself because, if the light is here, like imagining myself in the 3D space, like where would the light hit and how would it bounce off of different surfaces and using different colors of light and how they combine when they cross path. So this is a more thoughtful process than just the flat color, and definitely very challenging. I'm getting better. I'm getting way better at it because when I compare it to Murder Castle and Poe, this one's so much better. It definitely is cool to see the difference and how.
Which is the one that we're looking at now? You said this was the vampire.
The
Dracula.
Yeah, this is Bran Castle, and that's an actual castle in Romania where it's myth says that Dracula lived there. It was actually for a short time Vlad the Impaler lived there, and so it's definitely got a lot of vampire lore around it. And the castle throughout about 32 scenes. I've illustrated the whole novel of Bram Stoker's Dracula, so you can like read the book or listen to it and then kind of follow along. But I just like the idea of having one book illustrated in a single image and incorporating the actual castle. And I actually have the blueprints here. These blueprints are so terrible and JPEGy and teeny tiny. And so it's like actually translating this into a 3D structure was difficult. But weirdest thing ever, I found as I was looking for resources, this dude whose hobby is building Lego replicas of actual castles. And he did one at Bran Castle, and he had the most amazing like schematics for it, and everything. And I emailed him, and I'm like, "Dude, can I use this as a reference?" And he was like, "Yeah, of course." So I owe him a couple puzzles. I know that, but I just thought that was the weirdest thing. Like someone has already mapped it out so perfectly. So between those references, I was able to get it pretty accurate. And that was the Poe one was just a made up building. Mm-hmm. So I thought that would be easier, but it actually was more difficult because I had to kind of like, figure out the composition. Whereas with this one and Murder Castle, the blueprints already existed. So I just had to kind of like figure out how to make that 3D. And so the structure was already in place for me.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought, but then there are like theories on like certain parts of the Murder Castle being existent or not or whatnot, right? There's all these. So.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I got as close as I could. I definitely had to take a little artistic license here and there, but between the blueprints they had and then the police notes and stuff like this, and then of course rumors, I tried to pack in as much of the interesting stuff as possible.
Yeah, I'm loving the, like, when I find stuff like, ooh, is that a trap door? Like, I'm like looking really carefully, like, ooh, that's a trap door right there.
Yeah.
It's very cool to discover.
Actually, I want to know with something like Murder Castle or Pose or the one that you're working on right now, is there a possibility of it becoming like a 3D puzzle? Like
I asked that a lot, actually. That's something that, I don't have much interest in that. I would definitely be interested in collaborating with someone if they wanted to like make a special edition run of 3D. But that's kind of veering out of like, I'm definitely a very 2D kind of gal. But I have seen a lot of people interested in that. Yeah.
This has to be like a super advanced level to take what you're
9
doing.
9 hour wasn't enough for you. You're like, I'm gonna.
Hey, I'm already 2 days in. I might as well go the whole week, right, and build it up now.
Wow.
By the way, I'm crediting and borrowing this image that's behind us. This is totally Holly's image. It looks amazing. I was fascinated by how realistic it looked from your POV. I'm assuming that's your POV or somebody's POV while surrounded by it. That looks amazing.
Yeah, I have this big beam in the middle of my house, and so I would sit up there and just draw that. And I was in this sketchbook phase where I wanted to, again, like fit as much of a room into a single image as possible. So a lot of like warping perspective and stuff. Like, it was great practice for dealing with 3D space. But yeah, that's my house. That's I'm impressed that you dug that up.
We have a question from Seth. Wants to know, which castle would you Airbnb for a weekend if you could, and why? Oh, this could take a while.
Yeah.
Ooh. Well, I think I would have to do Edgar Allan Poe, because that's like the safest. I probably wouldn't get murdered there.
No.
And there's definitely a lot of like super interesting and weird characters that I would personally love to ask questions. But the other two, the body count's pretty high, and so I think I would steer clear. Although at this point, I'm kind of an expert in how to kill vampires, so it might be kind of cool to go to Bran Castle and shoot my shot,
Yeah, get some exercise in. And
Nice.
All right. So what are some of your essential or favorite tools that you always keep with you while designing your artwork?
Oh, well, definitely my sketchbook, which has like all of my reference notes. Like, I have to have this with me whenever I'm working on it. And then the novel itself, and basically the process I go through is I have a list of like all of the different rooms, and I've numbered them and labeled them. And so while I'm sketching and coloring everything, I'll refer back to the notes that I've got to make sure that there's a lot of visual references, like, oh, he was using his right hand to hold this, or her hair was like yellow or whatever. And so making sure that I get as much of those details accurate as possible, because, just out of respect for whoever's reading the book, like if they're reading it and then it's like different than what's in the book, I think that is just kind of lame. So if I'm gonna do it, it needs to be perfect. So I'm always referencing this, and that's pretty much it. One great thing
you also use like gloves for various.
The gloves. Yeah. So I keep these gloves. I've got like tons of these gloves, and they're always like in my laundry, just like whatever. But because I'm there, that's actually the ink for it. Because I'm working on one piece of paper for months and months, like I've got to make sure that I keep it as clean as possible. I'm not like super precious with it, because again, like some of those little marks and smudges can kind of make the final image give it a little more character. But yeah, that just keeps my gross skin oils off the paper. And also because I tend to draw like, sometimes up to 12 hours a day. The way I hold my pen, which is not good for my hands, but I kind of grip it real hard. And so having the glove with the fingers on it will prevent this like gnarly finger dent I get. Like my finger is like permanently dented here. So that just makes it a little more comfortable to hold the pen for a long period of time.
Oh yeah, I can so relate, because I just finished my crystal art piece and I was like, oh my god, there's an indent, like really, really.
Yeah, I like these long fancy ones too. Like because, not to get my arm on it, because also I just feel like a princess when I'm wearing it.
She's like, I like to wear gloves.
She's getting into character.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
In the castle with her long, fancy gloves.
Also, and I was like, oh, look, Holly already has some gloves before the pandemic. She's all ready to, she's all prepared.
Sure. Puzzles, gloves, I've got it covered.
So, I mean, we became instant fans of yours when we had gaming concepts on the show. What would you say the difference is between designing like their board game art and the jigsaw puzzles?
Well, one really cool thing about doing the game was that the guys were essentially assigning me what they wanted designed. And so it was really nice to have that direction and not be 100% responsible for every single decision, because that's something that can be really cool. But on the flip side, like, there's no one to ask you for help. You know what I mean? Right. And Seth and Brant were super easy to work with and really clear about what they wanted. There were definitely some things, like there were a few rooms they're like, just do whatever you want. This is the name of it. Go nuts. But there were some things that they specifically wanted, and it was really a really smooth process, because going into it, I was like, wow, this is such a intense and complicated project. I was like, man, this could get hairy, but it was just super organized. Like, Seth has these really clear briefs that were like numbered and lettered, and just like everything was really organized. So that made it so helpful. But that was a really interesting part of the project, because all my stuff is pretty much self-produced. So it was nice to have those limitations and guidance. But there was one of my favorite parts was, as I was initially inventing the characters, they had sent me, pretty clear descriptions on what they wanted people to look like and their personalities and stuff. And one of the characters, they were like, we need him to have a smarmy expression. I was like, okay. So I tried it a couple times, and they're like, it's not quite smarmy enough. And after a couple back and forths, they just sent me a picture of James Woods. Like, got it.
Now I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Have you played the game? Have you played their game, or had a chance to play it?
So this is awful, Seth. Don't be mad. I have to. And I keep meaning to, but I can't. Well, first of all, I haven't really been around people because of COVID, and my boyfriend is so not into board games that I feel like it. Like, I asked him once, and his reaction was, I was like, I'm just not gonna put through it. So there's no excuse though, because I could play the solo. You
it was a solo run.
Yeah, but I think it's more fun to play with someone though. You definitely would want to play.
Yeah, but I'm like literally drawing all of the time, so it's hard for me to just take time to, like, even if I'm like watching TV or something, I'm always drawing, and so it's hard for me to take time away to like do something else. I get guilty.
I mean, like, I feel like also for the illustrations that you guys did for that game, it's so, like, I wasn't sure. Did you feel like there were any differences in the board game, like, floor plan versus what you did for the puzzle, or is it exactly the same?
Yeah, it was different because of it was an overhead rather than, which I guess is kind of like a fudged 3-point perspective that I usually do, which was cool. There were some challenges with that, like figuring out how do I communicate that this is like a shelving unit when I can only picture the top. So there was a lot of like figuring out how to do that and make it and make it so you could actually tell what's going on. But again, like, I love that kind of challenge, like working with different perspectives and changing the space to work. So that was really cool. As far as the actual drawing part of it, it was pretty much the same. And I actually got a lot of practice on the lighting on that. I think that working on that was one of the reasons that the light on this puzzle is better than Poe, because I had so much practice with it.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Well, for anyone who wants to try out Holly's newest creation, well, actually not newest anymore, because she has the Dracula one. Yeah. But Edgar Allan Poe's Macabre. I could Macabre mention 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle. Well, you're in luck by entering the following phrase into the chat. You'll be entering the phrase "Nevermore you say." I say puzzle more.
Puzzle more.
Yes, and here's the puzzle right here.
Yeah. I'm going to tackle that one next. I can carve out 2 days.
yeah, for sure. And 2 days is actually a very good time, I gotta say.
Well, okay, then let's say a day and a half. It was actually a day and a half, right?
I don't
Give
know.
me that.
I mean, I thought it was 9 hours. I actually calculated hours.
Oh, 9 hours.
Yeah.
Okay, even better.
That's a little bit time, but it comes with this poster and it has a key so you can see what all the different rooms are. And my hope is that people listen to the stories on YouTube because they have like these really cool spooky readings by like Vincent Price and Christopher Lee and stuff. And so I imagine people sitting there with some red wine and listening to the, with some candles or whatever, kind of spooky night.
Yeah, I mean, getting into character, just like watching a movie, it's puzzle time.
Yeah, for sure.
You know that my and secret phrase is meaning nevermore. Edgar Allan.
Yeah.
It was so hard to come out with anything that's cool to say for the secret phrase. I was like, what can I say about Edgar Allan Poe? Nevermore. I was like, nevermore. What the hell am I do with that?
Nevermore, you say? I say puzzle more. Okay.
Anyways.
All right, so heading over to our next question. Again, if anyone has any questions for Holly, feel free to type it in the comment section and we can relay those over. So can you tell us about the inspiration behind these artworks? Or we can talk more focused on the H.H. Holmes one since we just did that one. When you first got the project, what type of coloring theme character did you start to look for? And we're assuming it's a semi-similar type of process for you for all the projects, or are they all different?
No, the process for all of them is pretty much the same. And, over the years, I've kind of like honed it down and it wasn't like a plan to go into it. It just kind of like evolved on its own. But as far as Murder Castle, I actually made it because it was the end of my first year of starting the freelance business full time. And I was doing like jobs here and there, which were fine, but it just wasn't enough. And I didn't have any work at that point. And I was like, damn, like if I don't get something going in the next 6 months or so, I'm going to have to get a side gig or something. Mm-hmm. So since I had some free time, I was like, let me just do a dream project. I was like, my favorite style, Wimble Builder. I was really into cutaways of like buildings and stuff. And I was like, I want to do a cutaway because I'd never really tackled a big one before. And I was listening to a lot of like true crime stuff at the time. I was listening to Last Podcast on the Left's H.H. Holmes episode. And so I was super interested in it. And they described this amazing building, but there were no pictures of it because it burned down. And so I was like, okay, well, the job of an illustrator is to make a picture that doesn't exist. So I'll just draw it. So that was, and I wanted to do the pen and ink style. Because at the time, a lot of the jobs I was getting, they wanted like digital or like boring logos and stuff. And I was like, I just want to draw something that would be like the funnest thing ever. And I did, and it took off. So I guess, they say if you draw what you want to in the way you want to, it's going to be more successful. And I guess that's true.
Yeah, no, you definitely have a big fan base now. I definitely see that, the following, and I know I understand totally why there's a big following.
Yeah.
I mean, the artwork is beautiful.
Absolutely. So. By the way, if you stick around to the end, at 5 p.m., we are actually premiering our unboxing video of the H.H. Holmes Murder Castle Jigsaw Puzzle, and also gameplay video of CC and I struggling but coming around to it after 9 hours, completing the puzzle. So you'll get to see that. It's not a 9-hour video. Don't worry. It's time lapse. But I am going to drop that link now, and I'm also going to post it here because you will have a chance to watch it at 5 p.m. because it will go live. There is your link. And you can click that now.
Yeah, awesome. All right, so going forward with the projects that you did for Nashville Zoo map, we're going to show a picture first, so this way I can direct to that.
Yep. Okay, let's bring that Nashville.
Okay, so then where we felt like the colorations and the art was a lot softer and more kid-friendly, for the zoo, of course, but still very vivid. Did you have to go to the zoo and actually spend a lot of time there absorbing, the animals and...
Oh, yeah. I spent more time there than I needed to. It was so much fun. Like, he gave me a couple of free passes, and then, like, a few weeks later, I was like, can I get some more of those passes? So, I loved going there. And the reason, because I actually approached them about the map, because one of my goals going out was I wanted to do either a zoo or a theme park map. Like that was my goal. And this zoo was expanding and had a ton of construction at the time, and their map at the time was not so great. And so I was like, look, you need me to do your map. And they were like, okay. And so I got to go into all the exhibits that were being built. And so I got to kind of like go around the construction sites and like poke around. So that was fun. I did have like a terrifying moment at one point, because I was in the back of this new exhibit that was being built, and I looked, and there was a bear like right there, like really close to me, like uncomfortably close to me. And I was like, and the zoo was closed at the time. And so I was like, surely there is some sort of barrier between that bear and myself. And I could not see one. And it looked at me, and I just like booked it. I just was running faster than I've ever run in my life. And it's the only time I ever thought that I might actually die. And I wasn't considering the fact that like that was really dumb, because I'm in an actual zoo and there's no way that they would do that. But I was like thinking, I was like, do bears climb trees? Like, do I get dead? And it wasn't until I got to the end that I turned around, like, okay, there's no bear. And I found out there was like a moat. It was like a moat that I couldn't see. But yeah, it was like super exhilarating and funny afterwards. But yeah, almost got eaten by a bear for this map. So that's just more blood, sweat, and tears that went into it. But yeah, as far as the style, like they didn't want to do hand drawn, because they wanted it vector so that they could like take the different pieces out and then blow it up really huge and stuff. And yeah, I wanted to make sure it was a little more kid friendly. And I remember when I was going to zoos and theme parks, looking at the maps was like almost as fun as going to the park itself. So
yeah, and I like how you have the animals so vividly drawn, so that you don't have to really read the back to know like where they are, kind of.
Yeah.
And I see you specifically drew the bear really big.
Yeah,
so,
I think this is.
So that really was like, oh, that's where the bear that attacked me.
I mean, nothing against the bear. It was just doing its bear thing. It was my bad for, poking around where it wasn't supposed to be.
Nice.
We love zoos, by the way. Like we can spend the whole day in a zoo.
Sure.
And I think for you to like create something like this, it looks amazing.
So pretty.
It was so much fun being there. It was like one of my favorite projects, just because I got to hang out with a bunch of animals.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the next image we're gonna skip on to is the Fable Lounge. And
I could pause that. Okay.
Yeah. So the Fable Lounge is another one that you mentioned that's your favorite. I think it's also becoming one of our favorites as well. I mean, the vignettes of Fable animals that you use are so interesting in their own ways. The little turtle with glasses walking with the walking stick, the duck shaft, the lizard in a red dress and pearl necklace. I mean, what are the inspirations behind these characters?
Well, this restaurant is, I absolutely love the owner. His name's Ben, and he's just such a character. This restaurant is very heavily themed with like the old school fables, like the fox and the whatever. And they wanted a cutaway just showing the beautiful interior and like where the different things are. And initially it wasn't supposed to have any characters in it. It was just supposed to be like a wayfinding map of the building, like a beautiful portrait of the building. But I just got a little carried away.
A little? There's
I was like, do you want to put like a couple of characters in there? He's like, yes, of course, that would be divine. That's how he talks. He's amazing. And then one thing led to another, and here we are. We just got a bunch of nonsense in there. But yeah, it was super fun because, with Poe and the other stuff, there's some structure to the characters I have to draw. But for this one, I was able to just draw whatever, and it was so much fun. And,
I see what you mean by the lighting. Like the lights in there, they pop. They actually light up that area.
Like the outside garden area where they have the lights on the skyline.
Yeah, that's amazing.
The spotlights are really cool.
Yeah, this was a lot of practice, and this is more like the lighting in the Dracula puzzle I'm doing. Poe and Murder Castle wasn't quite as complicated, but yeah, I've spent a lot more time working on that, and it really just adds a lot more life and dimension to the picture.
Right. Yeah.
And then lastly, I want to ask you about the cover of this Nashville scene. What was that about?
So the Nashville Scene Boner Awards is an annual issue that they release, which was named after some Mayor Boner who did some flub a few years ago, or many years ago, I don't know. And it basically just catalogs all of the dumb stuff that people in Nashville have done. And one of the main stories was this dude who has this really fancy house in Nashville called the Fashion House. And it's basically, I actually talked to him, he's a really nice guy, but they kind of make it somewhere that social media people can go and like take pictures in front of like Louis Vuitton stuff or whatever. But it's very like trendy, whatever. Anyway, so he was gonna have this big open house party, but because it was in the throes of COVID, and so people were like, don't do that. He was like, okay, I won't do it. And then he did it anyway. And there were just thousands of people there. And it was viral. It was this big to do. Like, everyone was super pissed about it. I'm personally not very happy about it. But again, he's a very nice guy. I don't know that I'd quite forgive him for it, but I got to draw about it, which was enough for me. And so yeah, they wanted kind of like an animal, like the Animal House
movie.
So it's kind of based on that. But that is the building. You can barely see it behind all the characters. But I went through all of the news stories, had a bunch of like Snapchats and like Insta stories that they pulled from the party. And so I actually drew in a lot of the people who were really there.
How many people are actually in this image?
Yeah, the guy on the surfboard, they call him the COVID cowboy, and he's really nice too. But still, he was like wearing that outfit, and there's all the different stories that were in there aside from this one. I tried to illustrate as many of those in there as possible too. But I'm sure that I did notice it was tagged in a lot of people when it came out that spotted themselves in there. And I was afraid at first that people would be like mad or offended, but like everyone was like, "Oh hell yeah, I made the cover," even though it was for like something so awful.
Yeah.
But yeah, and the main dude that got arrested over it, he asked me to make like a huge canvas, like a 5x5 canvas of it. So that's hanging in the Fashion House now. So.
Oh wow!
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's actually an honor.
I know, and again, that kind of like pissed me off. I'm like. I was kind of annoyed with the whole thing, but again, he's a nice guy. I try not to judge people's character based on their coronavirus response, but
yeah. Holly, what is the head count?
The next year's party, we'll see.
What is the head count in here? How many people are actually in here in this image?
In the drawing? God, I have no idea.
Oh, okay. She just kept going.
Yeah, she's like, as long as I can draw, keep drawing, I'll just keep drawing.
Yeah, just as many to pack into the space that fits. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, so we love how different your projects are by the, but the quality of the art follows through, to each and every one of them. Mm-hmm. Like, what are you working on now that you're able to share with the audience, and when can they expect this new project to be done? Of course, you can also give, a mention about the giveaway Jigsaw Edgar Allan Poe Macabre Mansion, because that one is done, right?
Yeah, that one's available. And the one I'm currently working on, I actually, after the board game, I was like, I'm not taking on any more work. This is all I'm doing. Because I started sketching this actual years ago. And so I was like, I'm going to finally do the Dracula puzzle. So this is all I've done for like, at least it's been since like, I guess the end of last year, whenever Murder Castle came out. But I'm almost done with the lighting. I've been working with my manufacturer, and they've got it scheduled for assembly at the end of August. Mm-hmm. And so I should have them in. I mean, God, shipping has been crazy. Last year was like a couple months late, but I'm hoping to have them in so that people can have them by Halloween. But at least by Christmas, the latest. But I'm going to run a Kickstarter for it probably in July. And so you can keep an eye on my Instagram. I'll make sure everyone's aware of it there. Or there's a newsletter on my website, and you can sign up to be notified by email.
Right. Okay. And that is hollycarden.com.
Yes. Yep. And if you want to see the work in progress pictures, like I'm posting a ton of time-lapse videos and like sneak peeks of the insides and stuff. And on my Instagram, there's a highlight reel with a little picture of Dracula. And it has the whole process from beginning to end, like even the research part, like every step of the way. So if you're interested in finding out more, and then of course, when I'm done, I'll write another blog post about it, like the other projects.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's very detailed, so
Yeah.
definitely check
Where
out
do you
our
find the
blog
time?
post. Yeah.
I mean, it's all I'm doing for real. That's it.
Yeah.
All right. So since we spend, hours on detailing your artwork, and I'm curious to how much you actually know about them, so we're gonna play our segment currently called.
What is called?
Eat or drink.
Take a drink.
And these questions are all going to be based on H's homes, as we totally underestimated how long it was going to take us to complete that. So we haven't really gotten to the Edgar yet. So these are going to be just based on the H's homes.
Right.
puzzle.
So Holly, what do you have to drink with you?
Oh, well, I made myself, wait for it, this special Monster Energy drink cocktail with lemon and lime and a splash of seltzer and berry. I didn't have any umbrellas, so I put dinosaur stickers on my thing.
Wow, that is the most dressed up cocktail we've seen on the
Look at how
shelves so
long the-
far.
Wow.
I'm embarrassed to show mine now. Do you want to trade? Can we do a virtual trade?
So
Yeah, it's pretty good, but yeah, I kind of have an irresponsible Monster Energy drink addiction. So yeah, it's a little sharp, but I don't know.
Can we get a closer visual of that one more time? That looks amazing.
Yes, of course. I've got my berry kebabs and my little dinosaur stickers.
Yeah. I
I
love the
put little
dinosaur.
dinosaur stickers on all of my correspondence, so if you want a postcard.
Oh.
Wow. All right, well, let me show you my drink. Mine is also an energy drink. I've been drinking every flavor of this brand, and I haven't tried two more flavors. One of them is the one I'm about to try right now. It's called Allan New, and this one is the mimosa flavor, so also cocktail-ish. And the way we play is we ask Holly questions about the game, which is H.H. Holmes Murder Castle. If she gets it right, I will open this can and start drinking. If she gets it wrong, she still wins. She gets to drink that. She already started. She gets to drink that beautiful drink in front of her. All right. So let me bring in the timer because there's 10 seconds from after we ask you the question.
Yeah, and if the audience, knows the answer, they can definitely question, but usually that is not the case. So,
Yeah. All right. So
I have a terrible memory, so we'll see.
all right. We'll see if you finish that glass by the end of the drink. All right, Cece, start off with question number 1.
Okay, so how many beds are in the castle?
Okay. I want to say there's like 8.
One more time.
Is there 8?
That was so close.
That was pretty close. No, it's 6.
It's 6.
Okay.
All right.
I thought it was a tricky one because there was one that's half.
Yeah, there's a half bed.
So I was like,
We'll count.
Yeah. All right, so you drink that
Beautiful drink of
irresponsible- Yeah. And then I'm going
Monster
to set you up with the second question, which is, there's a grandfather clock in one of the rooms. Approximately what time is on there?
6:42.
Wow, that was quick.
did I see the wrong hand?
Well, you have the, I don't know if you
because I thought
Might
it was
not
the
be.
other.
Hold on, we need to go to the judges and do a check.
Well,
Verify.
This is a shorter hand, right? That's a longer hand. So I thought it was 8:20. I don't know.
I might be wrong. I know I answered with confidence, but I might be totally wrong.
You know what? I love the confidence. So we're going to give it to you. You are correct. And I will drink cheers. All right. Let me bring this clock back. And we're going to... Ooh, that was good. Mimosa. I think that takes the cake right now out of all the flavors. All right. Question number 3.
All right. How many chairs is at the dining table with the flower centerpiece?
Ooh. I think there's 5.
One more time.
I think there's 5. Like
You
4.
think it's
and
5 or you're
then-
confident it's 5?
It's 4.
4? Oh,
It's
man.
4.
Can we really give a close one because this is very specific.
Yeah, it's very specific. There is no... like.
no, wait, hold on. No, yeah, it's 4. Sorry. I thought I saw...
No. It's 4 because it's cut off by the... Yeah.
Visibly, it's 4. I don't know.
I think in her mind, she meant to draw the 5th one, but it's actually covered by the front of the building.
Yeah, because when I was there inside the building while I was drawing it, there was definitely a chair there.
All right, we'll drink together. Cheers. All right, we're on to question number 4 right now. Mm-hmm. And question number 4. One more time. Question number 4. How many rosebuds are visible in the vase on the piano?
Oh man, these are specific. I don't even think I know this. Right after drawing. Say 5. That sounds right.
Cheers! You got it. Spot on 5. Wow.
I was like, she's so detailed in each room. She's gotta look into. I had to
look how much she has to.
Some of them.
But look how much she has to remember. There's a million things in there. All right, question number 5.
It's out of my head.
Question number 5 for you is.
All right, one of the skeletons that's hanging is missing a bone part. What part is it missing?
Oof.
It's probably.
What is it?
It's missing the lower part of their leg, right?
Mm-hmm. Left or right side?
Oh, good Lord. I'm going to guess it's probably missing its left leg.
Yay! Left leg!
Good job. That's good.
Do we have a bonus question? We do have a bonus question. Love bonus questions.
I mean, it's just more for a question.
Yeah, we're not going to throw a timer on this. It's not a bonus question. It's really more just to get to know you a little bit better. Mm-hmm. Name of your favorite illustrators, or names of your favorite illustrators.
Name one of your
favorites. Or name one of them. And has he or she inspired any of your previous works?
Well, I have a lot of favorite illustrators. I guess one of my favorites would be Robert Crumb, mainly for his pen and ink style, and just boldness of drawing anything. Hieronymus Bosch is one of my favorites. I consider him an illustrator, even though a lot of people would call him a painter. He's an illustrator. Yeah. And he definitely has captivated my propensity for lingering in the darkness of the human mind. I guess that they would probably be my primary influences. And as far as Crumb, some of my favorite illustrations are the ones that no one cares about, and you can see them on the illustration section of my website. And I've got a couple. There's one of a grocery store, which I think is one of my favorite drawings, which is just because I always even before COVID, I've always found going to the grocery store kind of gross, just being so separate from the source of our food, at the risk of sounding whatever. I just kind of feel weird going in there and getting this stuff that is packaged and I don't even really know what it is. And so I just always found the grocery store really gross. And so I drew this big kind of confusing, gross mess of a grocery store. And that's more reminiscent of the Crumb style than my other stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Send that to Brandon so he doesn't spend 3 hours in Target.
I love Target. So by the way, one more time, 5 p.m. actually in 7 minutes, our unboxing video and our gameplay video of the H.H. Holmes Murder Castle will premiere.
And I know also Holly wanted to give a shout out to her local illustrator, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, this shirt it's by Bryce McLeod of Isle of Printing. He's a local printmaker. I actually interned with him when I was in college. He does a ton of cool, old school letter pressing, and it's just an amazing creative mind. So, but yeah, this is one of his recent designs. It's my Corona good luck charm, and it served me well because I didn't get Corona, so I leave that.
Yeah, I think we needed those shirts.
But yes. All right. Well, thank you, Holly, for joining us today. And for anyone who came in late, please remember to type in Nevermore You Say. I say puzzle more to enter for the game giveaway. And the game that she's giving away is the Macabre
Mansion.
Sorry. I was just
Edgar Allan Poe's Macabre
Mansion. And we're only one episode away from actually completing our 20-letter phrase from episode 30 to 49 now. So remember to go to our post-edited version of our show to find a hidden letter or number in all of them. There's only one each. And send us your answer so we can draw the winner for episode 50 of the big prize from Epic Escape Games, 3 games in 1.
Yeah, I'm curious who's been collecting them all and starting to decode.
Well, because you're making it a little bit easier, so now people are actually playing them.
Yeah.
So for more details on that game, you can also check unboxing videos on our YouTube.
Right.
And next week, we're going to invite one of my favorite app developers, Haiku Games, on the show.
Games.
And they have a huge fan base, and I love their escape vibe puzzles since day one. So Andrew, the founder, will be joining us on the show. So remember to tune in next Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And remember to give us a like and subscribe on our YouTube, Twitch TV channel if you haven't yet.
Yeah.
So have a great weekend, everyone.
Enjoy the weekend, everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time out. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Bye.
Good luck. Yeah. Invasion. Yeah. Oh. Let's go. Locked in. 60 minutes to escape. Think before you move. There's no room for mistakes. You got what it takes.